I give a lot of people the tools to do a lot of things, and it just frustrates me when they do not do it.
I love how older lawyers are embracing AI. It's not just the new jacks. It's such a fun time right now.
What motivates me is having other people around me be just as happy and win just as much. The only metric to me that matters is happiness.
The Earley Show will begin after a brief word from today's sponsor, Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our 24/7 virtual receptionist team.
So I do residential real estate, primarily landlord-tenant. My area of practice is high volume. It's a lot of clients and it's a lot of calls that I get. Before answering legal, I would have to take every single call or know that it was going to a voicemail and likely to another attorney. So it has been crucial for me to have answering legal and to have a live person answering the call and being the first line of contact for a prospective client.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Earley Show, sponsored by our friends over at Answering Legal. As always, we have a real treat for you. Today, we have Bob Simon from Simon Law Group out of both California and Texas. Bob's a very interesting, successful guy, and he's just fun, right? He's not a boring lawyer, that's for sure. And that's why I wanted to bring him on the show, because he's going to teach us a lot. I'm sure I'm really excited. So as always, make sure you sharpen those pencils. I'm sure there'll be plenty of writer-downers on this episode of The Earley Show. Bob, thanks for coming on, man. How are you?
I'm doing strong, quite strong, my friend. And that's why the fun aspect, that's why I have the nickname Planet Fun Bob. That's my handle
Social
on
handle,
Instagram.
Right? Okay, that's from the killer stuff. Okay, all right.
They say because once I'm in your orbit, you have to have fun. There's like that gravitational pull has to exist.
You're probably the funnest guest we've had, I can tell you that. So I'm going to tell the audience this because I think it's interesting. I put up a LinkedIn post like a year ago. I said, hey, because I'm always hustling on LinkedIn. And as a side note, lawyers listening, get on LinkedIn. It's blowing up. Tremendous opportunity at scale, free of charge. LinkedIn is awesome. I put up a post. I said, hey, just looking to grab coffee, meet up with lawyers. And you hit me up and you said, yeah, I'd love to. And then we had a conversation on Zoom and here we are. So I just feel like that is what lawyers need to do if they're going to get after it, is open up opportunities and get themselves out there, right? And to network. So that's how we connected otherwise, right? I mean, I think that was really important.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people lose sight of, is you have to have that hustle and that, that you still want to connect, and like people work with those that they like to work with, bottom line. I mean, that's the way this industry works. That's the way the world works. You work with people that you enjoy being around and working with.
Yeah.
So I try to make a very dedicated effort on all the social media platforms to be responsive, to, be respectful of people's time, but be present and be like a good person, friend first. And that's just always how I built every single thing I've ever done, is just on personal relationships.
That's what it's about. So, before we get into today, your career, let's just go back in time. You're from Pittsburgh, right? Growing up, could you just take us back? Mom and dad. I always do my research before each show. Seems like modest middle class. What was it like growing up and coming up, in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I'm actually wearing a Pittsburgh t-shirt. I didn't anticipate that, but I'm popping it today with my LA lawyer hat on, even though I don't root for the Dodgers. I'm still a Pirates fan. No, but I mean, we grew up, middle working class. My dad was a truck driver for UPS, was there for actually 35 years. My mom took care of us kids. I'm one of five. So yeah, my dad, he did local routes, and then he did like the large feeder trucks toward the end of his career. He'd go to like, Ohio and back, Philly and back from Pittsburgh. So a long time, and hard. Like my dad, instilled work ethic and being a good human in us. And he would literally come home from work. We call him in the Browns because he always come home, UPS Browns, and go right to coaching our sports teams.
Awesome.
I have a twin brother. We have 3 younger siblings. So like right to practice. No, it was great. I mean, we grew up shoveling out our parking spots, that kind of life, and nobody knew what a BMW was. My dad once bought me a pair of Jordache shoes and said they were Jordans. We didn't know better, right? We had a great childhood.
I love it.
And it just, I kind of always grew up with that. I want to do better. I don't know. It's just this, no matter how much money I've made and it's been significant in my career, it's like I still work hard just because I want to make everybody else better. And it just like people ask me, when are you going to retire? I'm like, why? This is fun. It's truly fun for me. But no, like, growing up in Pittsburgh was a lot of work ethic, a lot of just having normal conversations with normal human beings. And I loved it. I go back, my wife's from Pittsburgh too. We met out in Los Angeles though. Now we have 3 beautiful daughters, 7, 4, and 2. Since then we moved out all our entire family. My mom's wife lives in our house in Manhattan Beach. My mom and dad both work for us now. My dad's new wife works for us. Both of my brothers, obviously, at our firm. Both of my sisters run our technology company. I think one of my dad's wife's daughters works at the firm. There may be other family at this point. I'm not sure.
Well, I love that. So I want to ask you something so we had John Morgan. He was our very first guest on the podcast, and his brother was injured badly at Disney. Now, I understand you had a family member back in the day who had a catastrophic injury. How did that touch your life and influence you?
Yeah. And by the way, John Morgan was a huge influence on me starting my own firm. I remember reading the book, You Can't Teach Hungry. Brian Panish, who's also a mentor of mine, gave me that book. And a lot of that resonated with me. It's like how I built up. I was like, why can I not do this? I was second year lawyer at the time. But no, whenever I was, 11, 12 years old, it's actually my dad's uncle, even though they're the same age. Our Irish family is big. So my grandmother was one of 12. She's one of the oldest. Her younger brother is one of the youngest. So my cousins, even though they're my second cousins, were all the same age. And he was hit by a drunk driver not wearing a seatbelt. And there was a whole fight about course and scope, about his comparative not wearing a seatbelt, and he was rendered a paraplegic. That's my entire family's all working class. Yeah. And it's just to see a family hit so hard about, his wife was a school teacher. He was working for the Pittsburgh Press at the time, I believe, being an actual pressman. That's what a lot of my uncles did, was actually pressing the newspapers, So if you're hurt, you can't work, right? There's not like brain power. We could still be a lawyer. That doesn't exist for blue collar. If you have a catastrophic injury, it affects everything. I saw this scrappy lawyer fight for them. They got into trial. They ended up resolving it for a significant amount. And it set up my family, for success, for quality of life. Like they were able to buy a plot of land behind a cemetery in Pittsburgh, name it Kane Lane, Kane. That's our family's last name, the Irish side. And my other uncle, my dad's brother, bought a house across the street. There's a whole bunch of family that lived there. He got a nice ranch style home so they can get around in his wheelchair. Both my cousins went to prestigious universities. They both have great careers now. They got set up with trusts. Wow. And he had medical care the rest of his life. And that would have never happened had he not had the right person for him. But yeah, that's always inspired me to fight. I've always wanted to be a trial lawyer. My dad used to watch all the old Perry Mason stuff. We'd watch it all the time, man. I've probably read every John Grisham book, saw every John Grisham movie,
That favorite?
Junkie stuff. The Rainmaker was probably my favorite John Grisham book. I don't think it ever made a movie, but that's still to this reason why I do not do mass torts is because of the Rainmaker. If you ever read it, you'll know. No, it wasn't the Rainmaker. Shit. Wow.
Rainmaker wasn't a movie.
King of Torts.
Yes.
King of Torts.
Yes, that wasn't a movie. You're exactly right.
Tort was my favorite, but it is why I will never go into mass torts.
So I gotta be honest with you. I thought you were always from California. I'll be honest. You have it's almost like a California accent. You get almost like a vibe that I guess you've just absorbed being there so long. But I was totally surprised you're from Pittsburgh, man. I just doesn't make a difference. I just thought that was interesting. But you've been there a while.
I can get my Pittsburgh accent downtown. I could talk about going downtown and watching Steelers playing that. In the Pittsburgh language, there's no T and H. T and H does not exist in it. OW is AH. If you do that, you could speak Pittsburgh.
So you eventually got out to California. What brought you to California?
I came out to look for law schools. It was, I think, the first time I was actually on a plane. This was 2001 or 2002. I came out to California because I got a brochure of Pepperdine, this school in Malibu, and it was on a cliff. And I was like, got to see this place. There's no way it actually looks like this. And I went out there. I did undergrad in Washington, D.C. And then I came out here and I was like, oh my God, it's like a dream. There's no humidity. I hate humidity, first of all, something I never did well with as a bigger dude. So I come out here and couldn't believe it, how beautiful it was. And then, I remember going out with I had some friends from California that when I was in college, we were in the sports fraternity, and I was the president there for a few years, but a lot of the water polo players and swimmers were from California that went there. So I had a lot of friends in California just because I went to college with them. So we had a network of some folks out here. I remember they took me out to like a nice place to eat. And I remember there was just like this famous actress there. And I was like, there's no way this is real. And I would just like went up and talked to her. I was like, this is a different world. And I remember having this feeling that I was being, in Southern California, and we were just in a random like sports bar, and it looked like a beer commercial. Like it was all just these beautiful people having fun. I was like, there's no way this is real, but it was real. And then fast forward 6 years later, I met my wife in that bar.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. So you get out there, you didn't really know a lot of people, and then you started to, create relationships. You went to law school. When you were in law school, were you networking, or were you just putting your head down and doing law school?
Law school was the first year of law school was the first time I was not playing a sport or working a couple of jobs, because they have you sign a contract where you have to you take out loans and study and work. So law school was easy for me because I was able to do time management. It's the first time where I had a lot of time to do things. We had some of my friends from DC. We all moved out here together. One guy that I drove cross country with, we actually had our gas siphoned in Indianapolis. Now that I think about it, they fucking siphoned our gas. Went to McDonald's. Somebody stole the gas we just bought. We didn't have a lot of money at the time.
God,
terrible.
What the hell?
So Tom Conroy, who's now a partner at my law firm, he does all the complex product liability cases. We've tried cases together, like huge ones, multi-week ones. We're two 18 or 22-year-old kids driving across country from DC getting gas siphoned from us. But there was a small network of people we had. But yeah, you have to hustle. Like I always tell people, I mentor a lot of law students, and I say, go to law school where you want to practice and live, because you're laying groundwork there. Like, I always tell people, don't do law review unless you want to go be an appellate writer or work big law. Don't do law review. Go work in law clerk, right? Go work for somewhere you want to learn to live and breathe it, make connections. And it's a lot easier now to slide into people's DMs. But back when, 2002 to 2005, when I was doing this, there wasn't social media, wasn't huge. Lawyers weren't on it. You had to go to people's offices. You had to go to like local bar networking events. And I would just go, I would do personal injury. So I was working at a personal injury firm, and I would just, and any chiropractors they were working with, or orthopedic doctors, I would just go meet with them and figure out a way for them to get us more business, and then to meet their friends to get us more business. And I just grew this word of mouth thing. I was handing out business cards that didn't even have a title on it. Like it just had my cell phone number in the firm that I was clerking at. But, from those, I still have relationships today, just from that hustle.
Did you ever, there have been times, Bob, where I've walked into offices unannounced. I don't know if you ever did that, but I just sometimes I didn't care, honestly, man. I was just like, hey, I'm here to see Joe. Like, take a seat, 1 second, You ever try that route or no?
100%. Look, you have to have that non-fear of rejection. Like, what's the worst that can happen, right? Like,
totally
not available, not here. Always take care of the front end staff. The front end staff is where it is at, right? So bring something for them. It was big, actually, because of me going to these chiropractors' offices and orthopedic doctors' offices, I got invited to this one chiropractor's art show, and that's how I got on that game show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Because I was just there networking, and some producer was there, and she had us come in. My twin brother and I were there, and we both tried out. He ended up getting Trivial Pursuit. I ended up getting Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And we combined made like $200,000 from those two shows to start our firm.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, hearing your story, it just sounds like you have to be in the room to be in the game. You can't be behind a keyboard and expect to meet people and create opportunities. But if you're in the room, I think that, good things happen. But I would encourage the audience, if you have a slowdown in business, or you have some time on your hands, you're thinking, I need to hustle, just go knock on doors. The pandemic's very much over. Yep. And I did that, and people, they're so surprised, Bob. They're like, oh, sure, come on in, take a seat. Because you're so shocked at what you're so bold to do, right? So I encourage people to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, a lot of people just lose sight of doing those little things like that. Like if you have downtime, my downtime was spent going on like Avo, back when Avo was big, answering people's questions, or going on listservs and answering people's questions. I was involved in so many different organizations that weren't PI centric. So I was the PI guy. So I'd go home at night and just do like digital hustle to answer people's questions. Now you could do a lot more with social media and stuff like that. But that's what I was doing. Like, use your downtime to try to lay ground roots to make money. Like, especially we're in personal injury, you're one case away from retirement if you wanted to be, really, right? So why aren't you putting yourself in those positions all the time?
Absolutely. All right. So when did you actually start your own practice? And it was with your brother, right?
Got licensed end of 2005. California's a law. It's like 3-4 months before they tell you if you pass the bar. So end of 2005, I get licensed. By the beginning, late 2008, I left my firm, started my own professional corporation in 2009, which is a true solo.
Yeah.
I hired my little brother who had just graduated college at that time. It was just he and I. We leased, never forget, we paid $1,750 a month for a small office that we shared with a printer, but we sublet it from a big trial lawyer named Mike Hughes, who recently passed away. But he's the one that hit big tobacco for billions of dollars. But just to try to be in this think tank with other lawyers to lean on to answer questions. So that first year, I think I tried 3 cases by myself, all like smaller soft tissue cases, and did well on all of those. But it honestly put a hole in my stomach, like gave me an ulcer because I was trying to manage this new firm and try these cases. And we had convinced my twin brother, who was one of the smartest humans I know, to come in to operate the firm. So we formed the Simon Law Group in 2010. So that was essentially 4 years after I graduated, but I was a true solo before that. And then we just took some big chances. We took all that money that we'd won, finally got paid on those game shows. That's the same year, 2010, I married my wife. So started the firm 2010, married my wife. We've been, 3 kids since then. And now we have 25 lawyers and we're in 3 different states and we're in trial constantly. And that just started from putting every dollar we made back into the business, taking chances, taking calculated risks. And I think a big thing for lawyers is outsource the stuff that you don't want to do. If you're building a firm, start figuring out folks that can insulate you for the stuff that you're not good at or you don't want to do, so you can spend more time doing either the operations, the business development, or trying cases. And in my firm, I literally love hanging out with human beings. So I like doing the human connection, the networking, the biz dev, and I like trying cases. So that's all that I do at my firm now. But it took a lot of time to find the right people to put in those positions so that you can do that. Right. And one thing for anybody out there listening, check your ego at the door and check your thought that you have to control everything and make all the money in every single case. Don't think that way, because for you to be able to scale to like true happiness, split up the pie a little bit more. Like our firm does very well, but so do all of our lawyers. Like we rev share with them on everything, right? And if we wanted to be like these other firms that the partners make a lot more money than everybody else, like that's just not what we wanted to set up that culture to be. And that's how you grow, and that's how you find true happiness. I know a lot of people that are multimillionaires that are the most unhappy human beings you'll ever meet because they have to try all their own cases. They don't want to split the pie. Yep. And it's
unhappy.
Can't operate like that.
I'm with you, man. All right. You just said a whole lot there, and I hope people are taking notes for real, because there was a lot jammed in there. So I just want to go back. Your first year, you actually tried 3 cases, you said. How did you know what you were doing? Or did you not know what you were doing?
I mean, I tried a couple of while I was at my prior firm, and I, didn't know nearly what I know now. I mean, I probably tried 50 civil cases to date, but back then it was, I was leaning towards, there was a good organization called CAALA, CAALA. That's our Consumer Advocates of Los Angeles. I think it's the biggest plaintiff bar. I'm a board member now, but back then I would just hang on the listservs. I would look for mentors. I try to figure out what I was doing, right? Listen to seminars. Like we didn't have podcasts for this stuff back then. So I had to literally go physically places to find out what to do. First one I tried, went to myself to Compton here in California on a dog bite, disputed liability, disputed ownership case. Tried this case for 2 weeks and got $250,000 on my first case. And
that's wonderful.
My partner's like, holy crap, we thought that was a throwaway case. And it was like, well, I just put a lot of time into it. I researched a lot. Like I leaned on some people to figure out creative closing arguments. Look, I didn't even know what a for cause challenge was at that time. Like a little bit of luck.
Bring on the go.
Oh shit.
Really, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and that's like the struggle is I wanted to try cases, and I don't think you can effectively run your business if you're constantly out there on the ground, either getting cases or trying cases. There's just no way you can do it without having a true operator, somebody back in the office managing everything. Right. That's my twin brother, but everybody else, you don't have a twin, but there's a lot of people out there that'll do that with you and for you. And it doesn't have to be a lawyer that can operate and manage your firm.
Sure. No, look, there's a lot of, I study successful lawyers all the time, and I've come to a conclusion. Most have family involved in the firm at some capacity. Family in many in many firms is involved. That's why I have my wife involved with volunteering, give back to the community. There's always a spot because family's got your back. Like your teammates, obviously, your team members have your back, but it's just really good to have blood also on the team, blood relatives to really, help you, guide you, because just more help the better. So I encourage the audience, you can grab a family member in some capacity to help you. So back in the day, right, I'm sure you weren't like flush with these $1 million results. You had to have a thick spine and say no to offers, right? And try these cases. Or did you have no choice? It was just, they made you try it.
Yeah, those ones, they made us try them. The smart defense lawyers will give you an offer that's just below the reasonableness one, that it's just a cost benefits. Like, well, we got to take this, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm starting a trial next, like a week from today, actually. You're supposed to pick a jury, and they're just so unreasonable with their offer. Even the mediator's like the same thing. It's like they're forcing a trial. And I texted the mediator this morning. It's like, I can't believe they're letting me try this case. I can't believe it. There's a liability issue for sure, but I could ask, so like, it's a significant injury case. But yeah, all those ones usually forced by the bad decisions of defense lawyers. And no, we were getting, the state minimum in California is 15,000 per crash. We're getting a lot of 15,000 policies, 30,000 policies.
Yeah.
My little brother and I used to high five and go to Subway. We've got $100,000 policy, right? But it was like the biggest case I had was probably our second year or third year into our firm, maybe second year. And I help somebody out for free. I always do property damage help for free, or if it's just a few phone calls, we just help for free. And out of one of those things, I got a wrongful death case referral against a significant motor vehicle carrier of a young man. I think he was early 20s. And I remember going to the family's house to meet with them. I had my wife. She was my wife. Actually, we were still dating at the time. Shit. No, we had just been married. She came to pretend like she was my paralegal because I had to pretend like we had this firm to handle the infrastructure of this case.
I love it.
Yeah. They interviewed me and like two of the other huge firms here that are now my good friends. And they went with me. And I think it was because of the personal connection. I talked to them all the time. We ended up selling that case for a lot of money, millions of dollars. And I took that money as soon as we got it. And I, bought a piece of real estate, our home, for a while in Hermosa Beach. And then my brother and I put the rest back in the firm. We had finally got a line of credit that time. We never used operating expenses or credit to grow. We got another, I think, an associate or two, a case manager, and really took off after that. But that was just, helping people out for free led to that case. And I still talk to that family, still do.
I'm sure they would think of you with any kind of referral, that comes to mind. So did that sort of get you going, that one case, or was it just a million little things that just added up?
A million little things added on. I mean, until that case had paid, by the time it had paid, we had I had several verdicts that were on appeal, few within the millions of dollars. I'd done well in trial. I've always been good at trying cases and, being a human communicator and learning. I've always been good at those things, but there were a year or two, I think, or third or fourth year, my brother and I made no money, zero. We put money back into the business. We had to carry the cost of the employees. We had to take, make the decision. Do we take out a huge line of credit, or we just let this ride and grow what we can? Because I was confident we were going to win these cases on appeal. We had this case that I knew would eventually settle for a lot of money, but it was a struggle, man. I think the third year was the hardest year we ever had. And my wife would tell stories of us just eating, ramen noodles every night in our apartment until we got that. And then the next year, everything happened. All those cases from appeal went in our favor. That big case paid, and it was like this huge white wave. And we just reinvested in the firm. I told her the highest ROI you could ever have is in your law firm. Yes, it's active income, right? Inactive real estate by the beach here, and it obviously is huge because it appreciates. But active income within your firm, there's no other higher ROI. So we invest a lot more back into human beings, and now we're investing a lot into systems. And I know you know a lot about that, Chris, but I think as a law firm owner, you should start by investing in systems first
100%.
and then start growing from there.
I didn't do that. Back in the day, Never heard of, doing like that. Because when you and I started, there was no social media. You can leverage and create a network so much easier today. If there was no LinkedIn, I don't know if you and I would be talking right now. You're in California. So I'm in Boston. So it's the power. I'm not like some curmudgeon middle-aged man say, oh, it's so hard, back in the day, but it was a lot harder to network and meet people. You had to get outside. It was not as convenient. It was harder, you had to really get out there.
Yep. You had to go. I was dedicating like 3 or 4 nights a week to be out there networking, doing different things, and spreading yourself pretty thin. Now it's a lot easier, like you said. There's webinars. We have, on one company, Justice HQ, there's message boards that people are constantly communicating with and collaborating. There is just flat out Instagram, LinkedIn, posts, DMs. I go to these conferences and I meet people that I feel like I've known forever because we DM all the time, but I've never physically met this human being. And we're all hugging and like, oh my God, I can't believe I've never actually met. I feel like I know you, right? This is a new phenomenon, but it's so much easier to find mentors or people willing to help. I probably get a dozen law students reach out to me a week, and I'm always happy to pick up the phone and give them a little bit of guidance and see what happens. And I think it's why it's important. What you're doing with podcasts is it's a huge door to open for folks to give free education, advice, listen, chime in. When we started our first ones, Justice Team podcast was probably like 2016 or something, probably around there, 2017. And we just started doing it for fun, just to give like legal, like education and make it fun. And we started, I get to this day, so many case referrals and relationships because of the stuff we do on podcasts. And I'm a big believer that, education and all this content should be free. Like people should be able to know and should be able to grow. It's a lot easier now than it ever was, and a lot less expensive to start your firm. Let me tell you that. A lot less expensive.
Yeah, it's insane. It's a different world. You said just a little while ago you were taking big chances. Like, what does that mean to you, big chances, right? Yep. Like, what's your mindset when it comes to big chances?
Yeah. So betting on yourself. So like my brother and I decided to lease out this entire office building in Century City, and it was a lot per month. But we said, look, if we can restructure some of these offices, we can engage. We literally created other lawyers that I was looking up to that came into this cool office building to rent from us, that we ended up building relationships with, working on cases together.
That's wonderful.
Right? That was a huge risk. And we're like, screw it, we'll just do it. Right? Like, what's the worst that could happen? We go back to being broke. That was fun. Like, who cares? I always said, what's the worst thing that can happen? You use a lawyer if your practice fails. You can go, some defense lawyer will hire you tomorrow for a lot of money. It's the worst that could happen, which is pretty bad, by the way, but that's the worst. Big chance is like taking cases. Yeah. Like I was trying cases that were difficult. We would, put 100, 200,000 into a case, not knowing it was a coin flip. Right. There was one case, this was before COVID, but I had a case for 6 weeks. We put up over $1 million into that case, a product liability case. These are just big chances. And this was us fronting the money, not somebody else, which you can do a lot now, but we still do that. But yeah, you just take calculated risks, big chances, big reward.
Yeah, you have to do that. You have to get after. You got to take chances. Let me I heard you on a podcast. You said you outwork other people, and I feel like I do too. I just think you and I, right? Born, modest means middle class, big appetite, big hunger. Like I'll outwork the average dude. And I talk about that all the time. It's not like a badge of honor. I'm not like bragging, just a matter of fact. What to you does that mean? Out hustling, outwork, out wanting it. How does that color your career and what you're doing?
It's just maybe because I grew up a fat kid. I don't know that I just always had this chip on my shoulder that I can do this. I mean, it's just, I can't explain it. Like I've always, baseball, I was the catcher. When I was playing basketball, I was the captain forward. Like I was always just in these positions of leadership. And I find more excitement by having other people win around me. That's what drives me. Like I will out hustle you to make sure that everybody eats, right? Not just from my family, like my wife and my kids, but our extended family or direct family, the firm. But I'm talking all the other lawyers, people that are my best friends. Like I want them all to succeed, and that's where I will Like I will literally die trying doing it. My wife jokes all the time. She's like, you spend so much time helping other people. I'm like, well, that's just in my nature. It's who I am. It's who my dad was or is. He still does that. But I always say like the good litmus test of a friend or somebody you like is, can you call them and ask them to pick you up from the airport? Right? Only a few people you can probably name right now that you could trust they would come to pick you up from the airport. To me, that's a litmus test of a good friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You also said you have a big vision. What does that mean to you? What's big vision?
So I have the big vision that I have, I see people always talk about, I see things like years before that they execute and happened, right? So, we started Just HQ. I always thought community was huge. I wanted to create a space for everybody to work together on the same technology platform to create mentorship on scale so that everybody wins. People thought that was such a foreign concept. Like, how could lawyers from big firms as solos work together and do these things? Well, they do, and they did, right? And people, oh my God, that was genius. Why? That's just the way that I see the world. And when we created the marketplace through Attorney Share, it was the same thing. Like, I always wanted to standardize finding the best lawyer for the best case and make it so easy for them to do. We came out and people were like, how come nobody ever thought of that before? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I just, for vision for me is you identify this problem that you see day to day and you fix it, right? And then you think of how do you grow from there? Like, I want to create this system. We're close with Attorney Share to having, real metrics built in. So you can say, all right, I have, here's the case. Who's the best lawyer for that case? Just build on straight metrics, right? Who gets the best result in that specific entry in that jurisdiction, or, on this contract dispute or this wrongful termination case in Oklahoma, so that the lawyers like me, like when I started, had no money to advertise, to market. There's no reason that the people getting the best cases are just backed by private equity, right? They have the most billboards, so people must think they're great. So they give them the cases and then they forget about them. Mm-hmm. People shouldn't be treated like widgets. And I think if you have this, why we created the marketplace, lawyers can sit on one end and be really good, hyper-specialized lawyers. And that's why I think brand is so important. That's why I think outreach is so important. Networking is so important, because you have these massive marketing firms that are spending a lot more money than you ever can. If they can easily find you and track the cases to you and know you're doing the best work, everybody's happy. Consumer wins, marketing firm wins, best lawyer wins. So that's just my big vision. I think it's happening faster. When I created the idea for this marketplace, that was always the big vision is, look, if Google Law came tomorrow and said, we want to plug into a network of the best lawyers to send all these cases for a rev share, if that was ever possible, that's why I built the machine. And, it's all starting to happen. After this happened, Arizona passed their law to allow ABSs in. And this was all forethought, right? And it's just because you can see where things are going. Mm-hmm. But and I can go a lot more into like the vision stuff that I have, but I always think back to like, what happened to my uncle. If he did not find the best lawyer for him, it would have been catastrophic for that family, more so than it was, even though it was catastrophic.
Right.
But by quickly finding that person and having that fight for him, it changed everything. Especially in today's, there's no reason why the law firms that are backed by private equity that have the most money should have all of the cases that, honestly, they're not equipped to handle.
Right. Yeah. Attorney Share, I think it's been wonderful. I've picked up some cases. I encourage everyone, check out attorneyshare.com. You set up a marketplace, exchange, a wonderful place to get, accessibility to other lawyers and other jurisdictions. I mean, I think it's freaking awesome, and I love it. And it's really solid.
Yeah, we have to grow that, because a lot of my time is now spent at that company because we've had a exponential growth, and now we have so many. We're getting people used to their doing volume to, hey, put this on a marketplace and find the best lawyer right away. Don't mess around with it, right? Because everybody can win with this vision that we have. So now people are adopting it fairly quickly. So now we're in the place where like we have to get and build up a lot of other communities across the nation to get ready to take these cases, to vet these cases as they're put in, so that hustle now that you and I have been doing on the ground, the hustle's now going to be just watching the marketplace for new cases pop up to see if you can jump on them and if the attorney will pick you to work on them, right? Like, to me, that's the lowest lift, so the lawyers don't have to waste their time doing all these other things. Like, if I had these platforms back when everyone was trying to hustle, I would have been in the courtroom more. I would have known what that 4 cause challenge was at my first trial, right?
Yep.
And I think you can really do what you love if you don't have to compete in this other this other space. So yeah.
100%. So a big theme with you is just hard work and helping other people get what they want, right? It's this mindset of like, you're not a taker. It sounds like straight giving. And I just think the universe rewards that. Let me just ask you, as you're coming up though, looking back, what are some things that maybe younger lawyers could benefit from? So maybe some, were you going in the wrong direction too fast and you realize, oh, I'm going the wrong way on this path. Were there any things you did coming up to network, to grow, to build your brand that looking back, like, I don't know if I should have done that. Could you share anything about that for the lawyers?
Well, there are things I wish I had done sooner. So like, I wish I had gotten, I wasn't on, it took me a while to get on Instagram, right? As a firm, we got on and our marketing director was pushing and we saw a lot of stuff on. I wish I had taken those. I wish I had learned more about the business operations side of a law practice. We just kind of winged it. Like there's a lot of conferences and stuff we go to, and it's much easier now to out of a box open your firm and have all these automations in place.
Yes.
And if COVID had not happened, I would not have been set on all these things. If COVID had happened, I would continue to try cases, but I got out of that. I went back to research the operations, different artificial intelligence things that are popping up, how we can tie all this together. And to me, that is fascinating, right? For lawyers out there, I also did not know that you could split fees with other lawyers at the time, which was a big thing for me. Like when I found out a few years in, we had all these trial cases coming up, I didn't know what to do and I couldn't try them all. So I went to another big firm that's actually in the John Morgan book. And I tried a case with him. I gave 50% of my fee and he carried the costs. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. This is an eat and burn of the cost operation costs for me. I'm giving him 50% of the fee.
Yeah.
We ended up getting a much larger verdict than I ever thought we would. The client ended up getting more. And I didn't have, in those cases, this cost, we probably put 150, 200,000 into that case. I was able to allocate that back into the firm to have the firm grow and have the most massive learning experience ever trying a case with that individual. Massive, right? I wish I had known that earlier. I wish I knew how to get into mentorship groups earlier. I think the power of, and people call them masterminds, I think that word is a little weird sometimes, but these community building groups, these mentorship folks, everybody's been there before, right? And if you get in a collective and people start helping one another, I wish I was in that door earlier rather than just concentrating on growing in the door, growing my firm, working on my cases. I wish I had done more of that. I think that's the power of now community and learning technology, I think puts people in a very special place to dominate the legal workforce.
So much potential out there. So many ways to leverage technology, relationships. Let me ask you this. So I follow you on Instagram. You just started on Instagram and I see you on social. I think not so long ago you were doing a mediation from Cabo and I thought that's pretty cool. Like, that's awesome. Do you do all the posting yourself or is someone else helping you with the posting?
I have somebody else helping me with the posting. A lot of it is me. Like we have I have a creative team now. So I have a lot more people because I concentrate on social media. If you see almost all the stories you see on my Instagram are me. If you see a very polished post, it's from my creative team that you usually collaborate on and we come out with. The posts that have done the most viral are ones I just film with my iPhone or doing something. But no, we have a team now because I think it's that dedicated to the ROI, return on investment for getting one relationship a month for social media in our industry is huge because people would probably be shocked how many cases or new law firms reach out to me on DM to work together. And now I just say, hey, click this link on Attorney Share, send me the case so we could review it. It's a lot easier now because I wanted to streamline that process. So I can put in, I probably spend $20,000 a month on all the social media from the team to spend to producing all of our podcasts to doing Bourbon Approved. It's probably about that per month. But think about that. If I get 1 or 2 cases a month, I get that back. And it's fun.
100%. So let me ask you this. I love the social stuff because you're not a stiff lawyer, right? You're just, you got to be different. You got to build your brand, right? Whatever kind of brand, I have, wearing a ball cap early, right? Call early before it's too late. I just splash my brand over. That's who I am. I can't compete with mass. I can't compete with John Morgan. I'm not trying to. And I would encourage the listener, build your brand, but don't try to compete with anybody, right? You can just, do your thing and worry about you. You worry about Bob, right? And I worry about Chris. I don't worry about the competition. I did Bob for many years. Think like, oh, he got a big verdict. He got a big settlement. But now it's like that doesn't do us any good. But now that you've scaled and grown, what's your biggest challenge today? What's your biggest frustration?
The biggest frustration is that other people don't have the same work ethic, want, or desire. And it does frustrate me. Like I give a lot of people the tools to do a lot of things, and it just frustrates me when they do not do it. It's just, I always think like, why do they hate money? Or are they lazy? And that's a very big mental roadblock for me. Not having enough hours in the day to do what I need to do, although I'm very strategic, like I like to take my kids to and from school every day, do the pickups. I try to be there. That's like my break during the day. We live by the beach, so I could take like my e-bike, ride down the street, pick them up, that kind of stuff. But like the biggest struggle for me is kind of that, and getting lawyers to be more adoptive of technology and to use these solutions and get off their old stagnant ways, and yeah, it frustrates me when people don't have the same hustle that we do. But at the same time, if everybody had it, then we wouldn't be quote unquote special. So it's like that whole, you can't have good without evil, right? I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons guy, so I always, believe in the balance of.
Absolutely. That's the balance. You're very much into AI. Here in Massachusetts, you did a presentation for Massachusetts trial organization with Ray from Even Up. You're breaking down AI. That was a really good presentation. A lot of attorneys on that call. I love how older lawyers are embracing AI. It's not just the new jacks coming out of law school. It's a lot of the older cats are embracing it, and they should, because it's here and now. The smart lawyers are evolving and adopting, right? AI. Are there just some table stake AI tools you think all lawyers should be leveraging right now? You talk about time management. Well, this is how you can leverage your time, right? Are there some things that you just feel like you got to be taking advantage of right now?
Look, the bane of our existence when we started our own firm, did a lot of creating our own medical timelines, creating our own distribution streets, creating our own like demand letters. It was very time consuming, and we could have used those hours to be better lawyers or be in the homes of our clients, learning their story, in the courtrooms, advocating for them. I think that I'm as you know, huge fan of Even Up, their medical timelines they're coming out with. They have a new, it's like a case analysis type thing that's, I think, going to change the game. They're releasing that, I think, next week, but I got to take a look at it. You automate your demand letters, but the interactive timelines that are hyperlinked, that's just so easy for what we do in personal injury, and it's so needed. There's another, half the firm uses Lexis AI for legal research. The other one does the co-counsel Westlaw. I think you pick one of those two. I think that's a no-brainer. Anybody that's listening, you just want to make sure that whatever artificial intelligence you're using is trained on the right thing, and that it is HIPAA compliant or SOC 2 compliant. Make sure that your data is safe. We use one called ClearBrief, which like fact checks all the other people's briefs, puts it into Word documents with citations that are hyperlinked. I'm a big fan of internal large language models, so it's built off of your own data. So we just started with one called Clip, KLIP. And what Clip does is it is your own internal, it will pull all your documents from your case management platform or SharePoint, and you can query all of your stuff. So it's like using your work product to say, hey, can you give me a sample of XYZ, or can you give me a timeline in this case, or can you give me like a quick answer? Like we screen a lot of cases, people ask us to come in to try. I know within 20 data points whether or not it's a case for us or a quick no. What's the policy limit? What's the demand? Can you show me the proper damage photos? Can you tell me any prior medical records? Can you tell me what surgery they had and when? Can you show me the MRI reports? These types of things, it'll automatically give you all that information hyperlinked. This used to take us hours to go through and do, right? And that's also a low subscription. It's like $300-400 a month per subscriber. Like that's nothing. I think everybody should be on a case management platform that ties into what you want to use. Discovery, we use Esquire Tech. But one thing I think everybody should know is artificial intelligence is going to continue to evolve and get less expensive. So don't be inundated by, pick a couple of these products, drive it, learn it, love it, learn the updates, pay attention because new stuff comes out, but just be cognizant of that it's going to get less expensive, and don't get into these like huge long-term deals because it's getting better and evolving. And a lot of just these like Microsoft's coming out with stuff, iPhone's coming out with stuff. There's going to be a lot of things that are extremely helpful and that's catching up. So it's an exciting time to be a lawyer because we're supposed to be the number 2 profession is supposed to get automated out, but makes us all better, especially on the
That's
plaintiff
so
side, the
exciting.
defense side. Like they're in big trouble, man. Like I spoke to the defense bar earlier this year, and a lot went over their head. And I was like, guys, is it going to be an ethical violation whenever you're charging 6 hours to do discovery responses and this platform takes 15 minutes? Right. And I tell them, I was like, you need to start doing straight flat fee retainer, because if you do flat fee retainer, then you can use these artificial intelligence programs to scale and do things a lot more efficiently. But what's going to happen when a client goes to you and says, I just got a bill for $12,000 and I could have spent $200 and have this same answer done using artificial intelligence e-discovery platform. Yeah, and that's the one. Like our industry gets better because we get paid per hap, so we got to be nimble and efficient, and this just makes us better. But I am concerned about the defense side. They have to evolve quickly, or else they're going to be in trouble. And that's why you see a lot of young folks coming out of big law, starting their own firms. I know a guy that just came out of Goodwin, a huge, like business type contract, big law firm, and he's killing it because he's using these solutions. He's a true solo, and it's just not even close, right? And now they're going to have to compete with that.
So many opportunities. It's such a fun time right now, right? For guys like, us, our age, or, younger guys, gals come out of law school. It's such a great time, right? Especially as a plaintiff's lawyer. This technology is just what we've been looking for. It's fantastic. You travel a lot, you go to a lot of conferences and you speak a lot. You get in front of a lot of attorney groups. I think that's really smart. I know you're speaking at PIMCon, which is coming up next week. I'll be at that too. You have 3 young kids at home. You can't go to every single event. What are we'll talk about Mardi Gras, which obviously is for you, I would imagine, the event. But with apart from Mardi Gras, what are some of good conferences attorneys should be checking out? We're looking to gain skills, both trial skills as well as entrepreneurial business operation skills.
So for conferences, for forever, I lived in my world of local conference, right? Your local conference is good because you have your mentorship people there. You have all of your local folks, right? But I think everybody here should start thinking with a national mindset, because when I go to out of state conferences and I'm the only California guy or the only guy in Arizona or Texas, and I do all of these cases, I end up creating these referral networks with these folks where they're sending me all of their cases in my jurisdictions and I'm sending ones in theirs. It's a huge opportunity if you go to some of these. Like when I go to the business operation, business development type conferences, it's kind of a different conversation. I put my trial lawyer hat on and show all the success that I have to get all of their litigation and trial cases, right? And now with the platforms we have, it's much easier for them to port the cases over to us. So pick specific reasons why you're going. Even though I do go to some by myself, I try to come with a lawyer too for my firm to help divide and conquer. I try to get a list, if I can, of all the people that are going to be there. If certain people have apps which shows all the attendees, you can start developing relationships before you get to the conference.
Smart.
Be very strategic. I'll go through the list. And I do this now with like our tech company team. I'll go through the list of like 500 attendees. I'll be like, I'll go literally on a spreadsheet. Here's the people you need to talk to and why. Here's why they're important. Here's who they are in the industry, right? And then here's the people that you need to meet, why, et cetera. And I've been doing that since I started going to conference. On my first one, I would just created a lookbook of these people that I wanted to meet and some facts about them, so that if I saw them, just happened to see them at the bar in Vegas, I could start a conversation and know a lot about them and put them into my circle. So that's what I call like the conference circuit networking, which is huge and it's important. But go there with a strategy. Just don't go there with no plan. Don't know why you're going. Like that's not going to work. You have to have follow-up and own the follow-up. Like I get their phone number, right? Get their social media handle so you control the narrative thereafter and follow up, right?
Absolutely.
That's the best. If you get one relationship out of a conference, you've hit a home run. That works,
100%,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
No, that's
And
great,
that's
man.
when we talk about other things the things that frustrate me. It's like when you have this golden opportunity, and it's just like people just don't take it. And one rule I do try to have is I try not to leave on the weekend. The weekend's for my kids. So I'll do 1 or 2 day trips during the week. A lot of these conferences. Yeah. Because, like when they're the weekends, this core memory time. So I don't like to miss that.
Totally.
But the ones that are coming up. So obviously I do Mardi Gras, which we've had ice Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, Nelly. We've had Flow Rider a few times. We had old 90s hip hop. We keep that mantra. It's going to be great this year. We only announced, the Scarlet Opera is doing Friday night, who is the new queen. They're awesome. People are going to love them. But Saturday, we have En Vogue, who's opening for 2 other headliners that go up a little bit more, which we're going to keep a secret, but it's going to be a great show. It's like 3.5 hours. But we make it a networking conference. So we're doing all workshops where we're not they're not presenters talking down to you. They're just working with people. So there's one track just on trial tactics. There's one on tech and artificial intelligence. There's one on marketing. There's one on business operations. There's one on like health and wellness, and there's one on medical legal. So people can go in there for an hour. Work with like the best instructors in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing this year. But the ones I never miss are my local one, which is Cala Vegas, which is a huge one we just had over Labor Day. I go to CleoCon every year. I just missed Valentine's Day. I go to theirs usually too. We go to, I try not to miss the NTL ones. There's the Business of Law, which in Scottsdale. There is the one in Miami. So I go to both of those. I just went to their big auto one in Chicago. They're all great conferences. And I learn a lot and make a lot of good connections at those ones. I'm going to Game Changers this year in November. That's the CRISP Summit one. Yeah. I like Mogul a lot. I like the people that you meet there. I met, last time I met a lot of, big relationship stuff. And I do a lot of receptions and stuff when we go for like my one brand bourbon of proof, which is just my fun one. That's kind of where I usually fill some shows. We do some shows on the road around those. Like we're in Scottsdale for PimCon. It's their first one I'm excited for. We're doing 4 or 5 episodes on that Monday as the lead in. CleoCon, they have me doing 2 days of interviewing a bunch of people. They actually bringing me into the conference, which will be fun.
Cool.
For the Bourbon Talk Show. Yeah. What else, man? Shit. I'm trying to think what other ones I like to do.
You got a lot of stuff going on.
The Dornick Trial College. And there's a few of the tech ones. Like I just go like the ABA Tech Show with the other stuff, which is, if you're in the tech stuff, it's great. And I usually hang out more in the vendor room of those to learn about the new products than I do in the actual conferences.
Very cool.
Which ones are you looking forward to?
I'm going to PimCon. So by the time this airs, Mardi Gras will be already over. But I encourage, this is my first time attending. I see what you're doing. I see that there's massive, there's hundreds of people going to this conference. I'm thinking, why would I not? San Diego was beautiful. So I'm going to Mardi Gras. I'm going to PimCon shortly in a few days. Just getting out there, I'm in a mastermind. NTL I like a lot. A colleague of mine gave me a speaking stage at Miami NTL. I'm trying to get that again, snag that speaking stage again. Because it's good to go to a conference, but it's even better to speak at a conference, right? that's the magic sauce. And get them in your funnel.
Yeah. And it's like, but it is good to go and speak. And that's I try to. One of the reasons we create a Mardi Gras is I saw the same people getting the same speaking engagements, talking about the same shit every time. So we started Mardi Gras to be about, that's how the younger generation take the stage. They get a lot of talk about new technology and stuff, and that's how we've grown. Now I'm at the point, like I like looking forward to going to conferences where I do not speak and I could just like network and be on the fringe and stuff. But when you're on the stage, look, you have to, what are you going to do with it? How can you make that be evergreen? So if you take that stage, you should have your videographer there to be able to catch it so you can 100%. Put it into long and short form content, put it all over.
Yep.
I would say if you're a lawyer, if you have an iPhone, you could be creating evergreen content that you could be repurposing over and over and over again. And what's coming up in the news cycles. If something is about to pop in a couple of weeks, do some stories on it. And as soon as it pops, you release it. And all of a sudden you're at the top of search terms. You have eyeballs on you. That's just an iPhone. Right? That's all you can be doing. And then you could turn those into digital ads that are like hyper targeted, right? Like it's so much easier now to get in front of people than it ever was in a massive scale. So you take that speaking opportunity, could have 50 people in there. It could be 500 people in there, but you could be in front of 500,000 to 5 million by turning those into digital assets.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. Wrapping up, couple of final questions. What motivates you?
What motivates me is having other people around me be just as happy and win just as much. We joke, I'm playing at Fun Bob, but I'm just the most optimistic person ever. And I want everybody else to share in that same walk down the street with a smile on their face type thing. And what motivates me is to continue to build like everlasting wealth for my family and for all those people around me. And honestly, just winning, Chris. I just like to win. I don't even care about dollar amount. I mean, it's just, that's why trial's so sexy to me. It's you can actually win, right? It's not like playing baseball anymore. You can actually just win in the courtroom.
Absolutely. Yeah. You still are, hungry at heart, right? And I will always be, and it sounds like you're grateful for what you have. Because we were saying earlier, you could be broke and be just as happy. That's how you get rich, not with money, but with blessings in this world, is by being grateful for what you have right now, this second. Because Bob, for years, I wasn't like that. I was always chasing dough, chasing cases. Now it's like, I got enough, man. I'm good. I'm like loaded with blessings. Anything else? And what happens? The universe like bombards you with opportunity and abundance when you're really happy right now. Unless I'm totally off base, it sounds like you're that way too. You're grateful for today. You long for nothing, and what happens? You keep getting rewarded.
And I like building. I like the startup journey. I like the startup part of our firm when we were young and literally hungry and starving, and it was exciting and fun. And then we're building these other new companies that's exciting and fun when we're like literally building and shaping our daughter's mind and skill set. Like that is fun. That's where my headspace is at. I love doing that stuff. Even building like my fantasy baseball team. That's fun. Like thinking about the new young talent I got to roster, thinking about.
You have time for that?
Yeah. Lately I've had to say no to a lot of golden opportunities just because of bandwidth, right? I've had the opportunity to be on boards in other companies, and I have to say no because I have to concentrate on where I am right now. But I would like to be in the year or two from now, being helping more firms on a significant scale, nationwide, like as a mentor / investor / helping them with media and grow. That's exciting for me. So if I can help a lot more firms, and if you have a lot more firms, you have a lot more attorneys you're helping, those attorneys are helping a lot more people. So you're helping more consumers on scale. Now trying to dial that down. So
I love it. And finally, what's your greatest success in life so far?
My family. I mean, having 3 healthy daughters, a loving marriage where we smile every day. I mean, that's what it's all about. People sensationalize how much in your bank account. Yeah, we've done very, very well, but you can't leave this planet with it, right? And I always tell folks, like, if I'm having dinner with somebody, we're sharing that moment together, regardless of our financial status. We're having just as much fun with one another. So the only metric to me that matters is happiness. First, define what your happiness looks like, and you should take every single day to strive to get there. If you're off track, that's how I keep people on track. If you're doing something and it's not meeting your end goal of being more stress-free time with your family and being happy, then why are you doing it? And I ask myself that all the time when somebody asks me to speak across the country, and if it doesn't really have the juice for me, it's like, I have to leave my family if it doesn't meet my mission statement, right? So why am I doing it? Just try to say no.
No, it's not worth it.
Not worth it.
It's all about being a dad. It's the best, man. It doesn't get better.
It's the best.
It's freaking amazing.
It doesn't get better. Every day something new funny happens, or they say something that you talked about 3 weeks ago and they remember. It's like, wow, you were paying attention.
And they grow so fast,
Yes.
They grow so fast. So I appreciate, how can people get in touch with you? How can they refer you a case? How can they just connect with you?
Just go to Instagram @PlanetFunBob. I do answer all my own DMs. That's probably where I'm most responsive. You can, email me, Robert@JusticeTeam, but it might take a while for me to dig out from those emails, but Planet Fun Bob's the easiest. If you're a lawyer, just get on Attorney Share. That is free, and we can start, networking, pushing things back and forth, or look for me in the conference circuit. But if you see me, you got to give me a bottle of whiskey, or at least a pull.
But good stuff, because it seems like you're not messing around. It's got to be top shelf.
Look, so many people send me bottles of whiskey and I love it that I refuse. Like, I just drink the best shit. People are like, you have the bottle open in your house. I'm like, yeah, I'll drink it today. Because why? Like, why would you? Like, I always see my friends that have these wine cellars. I'm like, what are you saving this for?
Yeah, I know. Life is short.
My buddy, Mara Fiore, who coast to coast the show with me, travel a lot together. He's like, what your favorite? He's like, what my favorite whiskey is? We're like, what? He goes, the one that's open. I'm drinking with my friends. That's my favorite whiskey.
I've never met it, but it seems like a character. You guys have a lot of fun. I can see it. You guys are just.
So yes, he's at a conference. He's barred and he has an office in Seattle. He's up there for their conference, and people that I from social media that I never met are sending me DMs of him sleeping at a party. It's like the funniest thing is like he actually fell asleep up in Seattle.
Oh,
So like, I'm going to do this whole sleepless in Seattle thing.
Crazy,
Yeah.
literally.
So
That's cheesy. That's too much, man. Bob, I appreciate it. Love the drive, the hustle. Thank
Thanks,
you.
man.
This is a really good conversation. So thank you so much. That's it for this episode of The Earley Show. Be sure to check out more episodes of our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Answering Legal YouTube channel.